Do you ever look at old photos and just only trumped by moving images? Photographs have the unique ability to transport the viewer into a different time and place, and rendered far more objectively than any painting. Of course, photographs are not often as candid as they may seem. Many in this video already were staged, altered, or cropped, a process that goes back to the inception of the medium. Yet the alluring facade of truth remains, the sense that what you see in a PNG or a Polaroid is real. Real people, real situations, and real conflict. In analyzing these old photos, I could talk for a long time about historical context, image quality, equipment details, and all the other minutiae expected from an internet pedant like myself. But that is not what keeps me coming back to my cool photos folder. No. Instead, these photos have a more psychological appeal. The young people call it vibes, like the feeling of driving alone at night or listening to the Hotline Miami soundtrack. A sensation not fully describable, but universally relatable. When I see the uniforms, the material, and, most impactful, the faces of these long ago subjects, it makes me think, are these people still with us? What have they seen? What would I do in their shoes? My thoughts teeming with questions, but never a definitive answer. My studies in history have intensified this inquiry, particularly regarding American history. It is no coincidence that most of my photos in this folder are from the Second World War, and most of those are of the United States at war. The mythology surrounding the Good War has been prominent in the American psyche for decades now, a time of profound national purpose. The most diverse nation in the world, all working together for one righteous end. The largest mobilization in the country's history, with over 15 million in uniform and countless millions on the home front. The triumph of liberty and democracy over the black heart of fascism. A defining moment of our national character, forever immortalized in media and our collective psyche, even as the last of the greatest generation begins to leave us. It makes for a heck of a great story, as all history does, but an ideal does not always constitute reality, as historians have and will continue to scrutinize the great national myth, revealing a truth somewhat less flattering, filled with moral dilemmas and old prejudices. In a war such as this, the moral high ground is a very easy thing to lose. Even so, the sacrifice of millions to end the Axis powers must be remembered eternal, warts and all, since it is because of them that we live in a freer world today, flawed as it may be. Seeing these photos reminds me of the mythos and the reality, because I empathize with some of these people, and though the war is thankfully far from present reality, I can still relate to being young in the discombobulating age between upbringing and independence. Thrust into an unpredictable and uneven world, saying goodbye to old friends and making new ones, finding love and camaraderie, taking a giant leap into the big wide world, all the while still trying to understand the person staring back at them in the mirror. Find a school, find a job, find a purpose, find something. Questions still without answers. And yet, for a few years, the war gave it to them. But still, it came at a high price. For all this talk of reason, detra, and duty does diddly squat to reconcile the fundamental aspect of war, death. The corpse of the American soldier and the German rot just the same. Millions of lives cut short, from the Marco Polo Bridge in Danzig to Berlin and Nagasaki. A number in a textbook will never do it justice, and even the most grisly photograph catches only a sliver of it. It is simply beyond the capacity of our brains to comprehend. Beyond this, having reminded ourselves of the carnage and suffering of war, we have to ask ourselves what it is we fight for. What is it in this life that we are willing to endanger ourselves to protect? What are we willing to die for? Questions again with no universal answer, but I'm sure as heck looking for mine. As far as I know, I'm only going to die once, so it better be for something I believe in. And looking back on the past year, it's not hard to feel aimless, distant, solitary. I've spent more time alone in the past 400 days than I have in the past 4 years. We all want something to pull ourselves towards, or push ourselves against. And as long as there's thoughts in my brains and blood in my veins, I'll have to keep looking. Gazing upon these moments in time, I see it then, too. A present long ago, but one that will never be forgotten. These are people, all of them, and they've earned their way into the history books. Some through merit, many through status, but all from being a part of something bigger than themselves. I hope from the bottom of my heart that we as a generation will never have to go through something similar, but if we do, I know we will have the courage that they did. Death smiles upon us all. The least we can do is smile back. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, back to the pics. And not just the World War II ones. I am a sucker for the high resolution ones. And that way I can just sink my teeth into every little bit of it. And the immense detail in some of these helps bring them to life. Being able to see their faces without the obfuscation of pixelation reminds us of their humanity. It also contributes to what is my main craving when scouring the net for these bygone snapshots. Aesthetic. That's a word that's thrown around a lot on the internet, and thus it has taken on a new meaning. The jury is still out for the new verdict, but for your boy, it means a piece of media that grabs hold of you and puts you in its world, immersing the viewer in a time and place that is not their own, but is still somewhat familiar. A single image is enough to invoke the aura and mythos of a long time ago. Immersion. It's that late night feeling again, and I gotta say, I'm hooked. Yet one must be careful not to become too entranced by the rose goggles of nostalgia, lest we gloss over the suffering that led to it. But in the end, that is the power of photos, to help us remember and to make us forget. To put it simply, I just think they're neat. I like how they capture the past, both the moments of great spectacle and the monotony long forgotten. Some of them remind me of movies and video games. Others I find funny, but most of them, they're just cool. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the little details, but honestly, I just can't help myself. I love the bells and whistles. Who's wearing what uniform and when? What guns and tanks were used in this stage of the war? How worn is it from the scars of battle? Knowing the wider context and the tech opens up these photos in a very special way. It's that realization, hey, I know what that is, and it is cool as heck. So think about all this the next time you take a photo. Think of life. Or about how some no-life nerd decades later will make a video about it. Either works. I didn't really know what I wanted to do while making this video. The only idea I had ahead of time was the intro, so I had to probe my trash brain to siphon out at least a few pages, leading to this autobiographical, emotional, philosophical, and definitively stupid tirade that you just have now reached the end of. Congratulations. But yeah, go click some old photos, they're pretty cool. Okay, bye, good night.